Everybody, how's everybody doing today? My name is Jamaica Thomas. I am the founder of JT Educates LLC, and we are here tonight to do the Sunday night setup. This is prepping your week for love and light, and I am excited about what we're talking about tonight. And so, our topic for tonight is leading with humility. Our topic for tonight is leading with humility. So let's look at what that means. When we lead with humility, it means that in a world that often celebrates power and authority, humility and leadership stands out. It fosters trust, strengthens teams, and ultimately creates lasting impact. I'll say this again. In a world that often celebrates power and authority, humility in leadership stands out. It often fosters trust, strengthens teams, and ultimately creates lasting impact. When we are looking at humility, um, oftentimes as leaders, it takes a lot to bring ourselves down, right? It takes a lot for us to take a humble role when we are working in leadership. A lot of times, because we have worked really hard, because we have had some really hard tasks that we had to complete, because we have really proven ourselves, because we have paid for our education, we've taken the courses, we've done the certificates, we've done the on the job training. It's often very hard for leaders to take a humble role. It's hard to take a back seat at times because we have done the work, right? For us to be a leader, most leaders, we have shown ourselves approved, right? We have done that work. And when we are in leadership, sometimes it's hard for us to take a step back. So, what does humility and leadership mean? Humility isn't about thinking less of yourself, it's about thinking of yourself less. This is from C.S. Lewis. Again, humility isn't about thinking less of yourself, it's about thinking of yourself less. So when we are looking at leading in our homes, when we're looking at leading on our jobs, when we're looking at leading in church or organizations, we have to not just think about our own personal agenda or our own way of doing things. We have to think about what is the best thing for all of us. How can we all get to that next level? How can we all accept that goal or take on that goal, right? Take on that task and be successful. And so when we're looking at leading in humility, that's the road to do that. We think of ourself less. We think of ourself less. All right. Common misconceptions. Humility does not mean weakness. Now let me let me bring that. I want to talk about that point. When somebody is humble, when somebody has humility, it doesn't make them weak. Meekness is not weakness. Humility to me is strength under control. Strength under control. If I am walking in humility, if I am a leader who is humble, I know that I can go there. I know that I can say a thing. I know that I can do a thing that will put a period at the end of this conversation, but I'm walking humbly because is that action of me at that point the best thing that I should do as a leader? If I'm trying to be collaborative in leadership, if I'm trying to be inclusive in leadership, I don't always have to pull the leader card. I can take a seat back. I can take a beat. I can take a pause and kind of let you vent and say whatever you want to say, and then bring us all the way back together again. That's walking and leading in humility. It also is not about being a pushover. Now, anybody who knows me in leadership, they know that if you really know me, I make a lot of choices. I make a lot of choices of what I say and what I don't say. I make a lot of choices of when I'm heard and when I'm quiet. I make a lot of choices about how much I tell you and how much I don't say, right? And in leadership and humility, being humble, it's about knowing what's the best choice at this time, but also knowing that I could really go and say some other things that could air this whole room out. Like maybe I'm telling on myself too much. But I could actually do that. But I'm making choices to understand and really fill out the room about what is the best play right now. What is the best mode of action? What is the best way to get this task done? Now, does it mean that somebody in the room might ruffle my feathers? Yeah, but do I have to address that right now? No, because it will get in the place of the work. It will get in place of the work. It will cause the work to slow down. So, as a leader, I have to make those choices, and walking and leading in humility helps that. Okay. So, why is it essential? It builds it builds strong relationships, encourages collaboration, and increases credibility and trust. When you are walking and leading in humility, it allows other people to take place and space in the room. One thing about me that I realized, and this is only child syndrome, overachiever, um, uh, straight, no, I wasn't straight A, but making good grades. I often can be like, oh, I got the answer, I got the answer, I got the answer, I got the answer, I got the answer. This is what we should do. This is what we should do. That's often me. And that's who naturally shows up in a room sometimes. And I have to say, hey, Jamaica, hey, you don't have to have the answer today. You don't have to have the answer today. You don't have to have the answer in this meeting. Allow somebody else to take up space in this room, right? Now that took some time. It took some time for me to do that, because I just wanted to, hey, let's get this done. I know what to say. I know this is the thing. Oh, I think I know what the answer should be. And I had to learn how to walk humbly in leadership. And I had to learn how to walk humbly in leadership with other leaders. So if I'm in a room with other leaders and we're on the same level, like you have to walk humbly in there. Like you can't just be the one that knows all the answers. You have to take a beat back. You have to take a step back when you are a leader amongst other leaders as well, right? So it is essential to be to lead in humility because it builds strong relationships, it encourages collaboration, and it increases credibility and trust. It increases credibility and trust because when you are walking in humility, it is showing your people that you trust their decision making. When you are walking and leading in humility, it allows the people around you to trust you in your decision making because you're giving people space and place to be their best. Okay? All right. So, how do we do this? Here are some strategies. I always like to give you strategies on how to do our concept of the week. And so, strategies for leading in with humility. Number one, practice active listening. Be fully present in conversations and encourage open dialogue and feedback. There's nothing worse than having a conversation with somebody else and they're checked out. There's nothing worse. than having an intentional conversation with somebody else and they are checked out. They're, uh-huh, uh-huh, really? Uh-huh, okay, uh-huh. And you're like, as you're talking, like, this person ain't studying. Then I'm saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say studying, but they're not, sometimes, Jamaica from the north side of Bessemer comes out. But this person is not really um in tune with me. And so as a leader who walks in humility and leads in humility, you have to turn your ears on when people are talking to you, right? And so you have to be an active listener. You have to pick up those things that they're trying to say. You have to even entertain the people that always have something to say. And you're like, here you are again with the same problem that I haven't been able to fix before, but you're asking me about it again. And you have to still, but when you're humble, you do not mind entertaining and having conversations with people that you work with, right? Because guess what? You're going to have a problem that you're going to need to talk to somebody higher up than you, and you are going to have to be the one that is pushing and having those conversations and advocating for yourself. So a humble leader sees that and knows that and does it in kind. Okay. Next, number two, admit mistakes and learn from them. I don't know is a sign of strength. Create a culture where failure leads to growth. There, I keep saying this, there's nothing worse. But it is very hard to work for a leader that doesn't admit when they're wrong. I'll say that again. It is very hard to work for a leader who does not admit when they are wrong. Because I talked about last week the elephant in the room. When a leader makes a mistake but doesn't call their own foul, then you're like, so are we going to address this or not? Are we going to talk about this big mess up that you did, or this thing that came out, or this thing that's all over whatever? Are we going to talk about it? Are you going to say, hey, y'all, I messed up, or hey, can we regroup, or hey, I need somebody to be a thought partner or a thinking partner with me on this? I didn't have the right ideas. I didn't do this in the right timeline. And so I need you to help me regroup and rework this thing. Like, are we going to talk about it, or are you going to act like it wasn't a mess up? Okay. And you have to create a culture where failure leads to growth. We have to, and I talked about this last week, we have to give room for people to make mistakes. We have to give people room for people to fail and then grow through it. We have to build that culture. But if you are a leader that has created a culture where people are afraid to make mistakes, then your team members are now living a duplicitous lifestyle. What does that mean? That means that they show up for you one way as in leader conversations, and they actually show up a different way with their coworkers because they do not want to mess up. And so they're going to tell you that they got it and they don't. They're going to tell you that they understand and they don't. They're going to tell you that they got the work done and they didn't. And so now you're standing on the word of somebody who does not want to fail in front of you. And because they don't want to fail in front of you, they're not going to be truthful about the help and support that they need. Okay. So that's that. Next. So the first one was practice active listening. The second is admit mistakes and learn from them. The next, empower and elevate others. Give credit where it's due. Share leadership and decision making. So if we are leading with humility, we have to give credit where credit is due. There were times that I was in a meeting and my team would have worked on a project and I would have said, yes, thanks to blah, 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 we have done this. I would have made sure that the person who was the primary contact or the primary person who did the project, that people knew that they were the one that did it. I did not take any credit if I did not put in the work, right? And so that is leading with humility. Um, Next, maintain a growth mindset, constantly seek to learn, surround yourself with diverse perspectives. So if you are leading with humility, you have to realize when you don't know something. You have to be able to say, I do not know this thing. I know I should know it, but I don't. And then you bring in experts. You allow yourself to grow in an area. You allow yourself to learn and be the lead learner in your department, right? That's one thing that I used to say when I would do professional development with teachers who had who were learning a new concept, and they were learning the new concept to teach to their students. And so they were uncomfortable because they didn't really quite get the concept yet. And so one thing that we talked about is that you have to become the lead learner in your classroom, meaning that you are learning with the students. And that means that you can even mess up with the students. Like, it's a learning journey. And so, as leaders, we have to also be that. That's how we lead in humility. Hey, everybody, we have this task that's dealing with this concept. I'm not really sure about what this means, but can we take some time, maybe next week, to do a deep dive and some resources for us to kind of undergird our knowledge in this area? And then we can tackle this task. That is how you lead in humility. Okay. And keeping that growth mindset. Lastly, serve before you lead. Lead by example. Focus on the well being of your team before personal gain. You have to serve before you lead. How can you lead someone if you have not been in their shoes and to help lead the path or make the path? You have to walk with your people. You have to serve your people. You have to be in the trenches with your people. You can't be somewhere sitting at a C-suite looking down and they're struggling and you looking at points like they struggling. No, you need to come down where they are and help grow them back up, right? Or grow them in an area. Support them, serve them in a certain way so they can meet that target of excellence that you're expecting, right? All right. So, now that we have talked about leading in humility and we have our strategies to grow that area in our leadership, now we are looking at our call to action. So this week, every week, I give us a call of action, a call to action to help us grow in this area. If this resonates with you, share it with someone. So I want you to think about the summary of key points. Humility in leadership is about listening, learning, and lifting others up. Your personal reflection or your call of action. I want you to think about this. What's one way you can lead with more humility this week? What's one way that you can lead with more humility this week? If this resonates with you, share with someone who might need this message. Okay. So I want you to think of one way you can lead with more humility this week. All right. So that's it. We're leading with humility. Remember, humility is not weakness, it is strength under control. Humility is strength under control. All right. So I want you to be light, be loved, and lead boldly this week. Be light, be loved, and lead boldly this week. I'm Jamaica Thomas. I'm the founder of JT Educates, and it is my pleasure to help you prep your leadership with love and light. See you all next week.